Welcome to the Files Data.
Like many other prominent fashion designers, Raf Simons is Flemish and from Belgium. It seems indeed that Paris is no longer the birthplace of the great fashion designers of the world. Simons was 48 years of age at the time of data transmission. Simons initially studied furniture design at a university in Henk, Belgium. He then interned at the design studio of Walter van Beirendonck. Beirendonck is a founding member of the Antwerp Six, a group of arguably the most influential Belgian fashion designers who graduated from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts. Beirendonck then became Simons' mentor. A mentor is someone who gives a younger person advice. Mentis, from the Greek, is a noun meaning intent, purpose, spirit, and passion. He took him to Paris Fashion Week in 1991 and, quote, "The rest was history," end quote. Simons was encouraged thus, by a variety of people, to make clothes instead of furniture. His first collection was presented as a video where two men go on and off the screen, each time reappearing in different clothes. He continued to present in video format until 1997, when he had his first, quote, "real," end quote, show in Paris. This collection proved to be seminal in that it presented youth wearing new wave schoolboy garments. This was a motif that would reappear throughout his career. He, being a boy who went to school as well, might explain this identification and proclivity. Raf Simons was also interested in techno and goth aesthetics. He also enjoyed bands like Joy Division. Another fascination was the Habba culture, with its roots in Rotterdam. In his 1998 show, members of the band Kraftwerk, German for power station, entities not normally capable of locomotion, walked the runway. After a 4-year hiatus, Simons returned in 2002 with Hooded Urban Flair holding Theory male models. The show was a success. Those in critical fashion circles apparently liked this vision of, quote, "the streets," end quote. Menswear in fashion, it might be said, had been about utility with little room for fancy of fantasy. Simons was in part responsible for breaking down those restrictions. His aesthetic has been identified as influencing the Wachowski sisters movie, The Matrix, fashion label, Hit by Air, and film actor Jared Leto's musical project, 30 Seconds to Mars. From 1997 until 2004, Simons' collections were heavily dominated by, quote, "the youth," end quote. According to Joanne Furness, quote, "the key turning point was autumn-winter 2004, when the obsessive youth culture codes of his past were turned into clothes that were purely about shape and form," end quote. This turning point was followed by one ever more acute. In 2005, Raf Simons was appointed to creative director of Jil Sander. Jil Sander was a minimalist brand. Minimalism is not synonymous with the word boring, but rather describes valuing simplicity and using blank white spaces. Simons' first collection for Jil Sander was also the first time he made clothes for women. Human men and women wear different clothes for a variety of anatomical, sociological, and religious reasons. While at Jil Sander, Simons maintained the austerity that Miss Jill had begot. He also released a diffusion line in 2011 called Jil Sander Navy. He did the same for Raf Simons, called Raf by Raf Simons. It seems diffusion among large groups of people is only possible if things are made to be cheap. Simons' last show at Jil Sander was Autumn-Winter 2012. He left the brand as he and Jill herself began it, matte, minimal, and white women with red lipstick. He cried at the end, meaning he must have felt great emotion leaving the brand. Note the saline liquid moistening his face with said emotion. Simons was busy elsewhere too. He collaborated with Fred Perry, beginning in 2008. In 2013, he released a capsule collection with shoemaker Adidas, which was, quote, wildly successful, unquote, and helped cement his influence on streetwear for the foreseeable future. Some have called this shoe, quote, the Ugg boot of the streetwear world, end quote. Next, saw Simons appointed as creative director to Dior. This decision came unexpectedly considering Dior's history of opulence. In other words, Dior had been decidedly un-Simons for many years. Raf Simons's first Dior collection was widely considered a success by the fashion establishment. The walls of the show were reportedly inspired by Jeff Koons, an expensive balloon artist Simons admires immensely. It seems Dior likes to hire creative directors who prefer Caucasian models, as Raf Simons does not use people of color on his catwalk. John Galliano, the previous creative director of Dior, also favored Caucasian models. People of color have nonetheless worn Simons's clothes, particularly on the red carpet. The red carpet is a carpet that is red, which leads to the entrance into a place of award-giving. James Scully, who casts fashion models for more than 5 large brands, has spoken on this subject. He says, quote,
I feel the Dior cast is just so pointedly white that it feels deliberate. I watch that show, and it bothers me. I almost can't even concentrate on the clothes because of the cast.
End quote. The aesthetic for Simons's last collection for Dior was much the same as his first. The final collection was characterized by flowers and minimalism. Simons did not grow this time. This may suggest he might not have been as emotionally involved in Dior as he was in Jil Sander. Simons reportedly left Dior for myriad reasons. One of these reasons was for Raf Simons to focus on his eponymous brand. In his spring-summer 2016 collection, the clothes seemed to be the products of a more passionate, focused individual. The listener recalls that Simons began in furniture design. He has now teamed up with Danish design firm Quadrat in order to pursue those interests. It seems 2016 will see Simons returning back to whence he came, a furniture enthusiast, but most importantly, a highly influential menswear designer. Data transmission complete.